Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Recha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Jeremiah, the 14th chapter. And pretty much in this chapter, the Lord brings a drought, upon Judah, causing a lot of, a great famine, right? Because that's usually a result of a drought and distress upon the people. And then, as Jeremiah cries out, the Lord tells him basically, no, don't cry to me concerning these people, because I'm not going to hear those cries, right? This isn't unwarranted, right? This is a result of their stiff-necked and hard-headed ways. So as it says, drought and a prayer for mercy. This is Jeremiah chapter 14, verse 1. The word of the Lord Yahweh that came to Jeremiah concerning the dearth. The word dearth means like a drought. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. So the inhabitants of Judah were mourning because during the drought was bad, right? It was so bad, right? You had the pastures, right? The leaves withering away, which leads to animals dying. If the animals die, you don't have, you're either low on cattle, and not even like if you had oxen, you could do anything with it, because you can't really plant or grow anything out of the earth. Then the cattle that you would eat would be dying, right? The asses you would use for transportation would be dying. So it was a chain of effect, right, that was affecting Jake. And as it says, the gates thereof languish, right? And the gates were usually like the main hub. So when it says, and that's where you would have the elders would be there sometimes. They would have assemblies and so on and so forth. They would have commerce. But as it says, it languish, meaning that it's collapsing, right? It's not doing well. As it says here, to be weak, to be exhausted, right? To grow feeble, because this was the state of Judah as a result of this judgment. They are black onto the ground. Now, this is a verse that, we often use in description of the complexion, all right, of the tribe of Judah, which when you go into it, the word black is qadar, right? And it can mean like a physical complexion, right? So in one sense, you can liken it onto the complexion of Judah, similar to that of the ground, right? Or the soil, right? Which is different shades of brown. The soil, the deeper you go in certain regions, the darker and richer the soil gets, right? But also in another sense, you have the word qadar, meaning can be used for mourning. So this is valid in both sense, or in both cases. And in particular here, you had Jake that were mourning, their family, their children, and they weren't doing well, because as Moses warned us before going into the land, that this land, you need to depend on Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahushai, to get water in order to survive. This isn't like Egypt, right? But Jake didn't listen. And as it says, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up, right? The lamentation, them crying out to the Lord, crying out for help. And their nobles have sent their little ones to the waters, right? So they sent their servants to go into the wells to try and get some water. And they came to the pits, right, to the wells, and found no water. It was dry. And they returned with their vessels empty. They were ashamed and confounded and covered their heads. Now, the ashamed and confounded here is more so like to be in distress, right? Not as much like as embarrassed, but more so like to be distressed, to be at a loss for words, right? To be like without hope, right? When you're confounded. As it says, disappointed, right? Disconcerted. It says here, and they covered their heads, which was a sign of mourning, because the ground is chapped, right? Dry, broken up, not suitable for planting. And if there's no planting, there's no harvest. And if there's no harvest, there's no resources that you can make food with, right? Broken, abolished. It says, for there was no rain in the earth. The plowmen were ashamed. They covered their heads. Because the plowmen were like farmers, right? They would plow, they would break the earth up, create the furrows in the ground, plant the seeds in there, cover it up and water it. But you can't do that in a drought because the land is not suitable for it. Right? So they were also ashamed. They were also distressed. They were also mourning. Yea, the hind, which is like a roe or a deer, and like in sort of like that family. Yeah, a deer, particular a female deer. It says here, also calved in the field, calved meaning they gave birth in the field, and forsook it because there was no grass, meaning the situation was so bad. They didn't, that the animals were so desperate and so helpless that you had even like a female, a mother birth their child and forsake it because they can't take care of it. They're just that helpless. They don't even have the nutrients to feed it. Verse 6, and the wild asses, which are donkeys, did stand in the high places, right? Which usually at those places you would have the pasture, the green grass and so on that they would chew. And it says here, they snuffed up the wind like dragons, meaning they were breathing heavily, right? Panting for thirst, for lack of nutrition. When you go into the word snuffed up, it says here, right, to pant, to breathe heavily, to gasp or pant with desire, right, to be eager for. And so what were they desiring? Food. As it says, and that's why it mentions like dragons. It's just a simile to emphasize the how heavily they were breathing, meaning how much in distress they were. It says their eyes did fail because there was no grass. So the people were affected, the land was affected, the animals were affected, all as a result of Jake's wickedness, their disobedience. O Yahweh, though our iniquities testify against us, do thou it for thy name's sake. So, though we can't come to you and try to plead our case based on our good behavior per se, but just at least have mercy on us for your name's sake, right? So the nations don't look similar to what Moses said, right? They don't look and say, oh, he let his people die because, he couldn't take care of them or he couldn't deliver them. For our backslidings are many, right? Our transgressions, our disobedience is a lot, is innumerable. And we have sinned against thee. So if anything, have mercy, not for our righteousness' sake, but for your name's sake. Oh, the hope of Israel, the savior thereof in time of trouble, why shouldest thou be as a stranger in the land? So Jeremiah is basically praying for mercy from the Lord for the people and himself. But saying like, Lord, why are you holding back? Why are you behaving like somebody foreign to the land? Because a stranger to the land, right? If you're a stranger in a foreign land and something is going down, it's not your business to jump in there to try and save the land. Right? If anything, strangers flee back to their own land. So they don't really intervene to help per se. And that's what Jeremiah is getting at. He's saying, Lord, this is happening to us, but why are you like a stranger in the land? As though it's not your business. As a wayfaring man that turneth aside to tarry for a night, as somebody who is just traveling through, who just happened to lodge here for one night and is just going about his way. Why shouldest thou be as a man astonied, right? As somebody shocked, as a mighty man that cannot save, So why are you acting like somebody that doesn't have the power to fix this? But yet thou, O Yahweh, are in the midst of us, and we are called by thy name. Leave us not. So Jeremiah is saying, you're behaving like this, but we know you're with us, right? You're right here, and we're called by your name. We're your people. So please, don't abandon us. Don't forsake us. Don't leave us in our despair. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh unto this people, right? So this is the reply of the Lord. Thus have they loved to wander, right? So these people, they love to go after these other, the customs of these nations, right? They love to wander after these gods, right? They have not refrained their feet. Therefore, and meaning they haven't stopped themselves from chasing after these gods. Therefore, the Lord Yahweh doth not accept them. So that cry of Jerusalem, the Lord wasn't trying to hear that. He will now remember their iniquity and visit their sins. And that's why this is happening. Then said the Lord Yahweh unto me, pray not for this people for their good. When they fast, I will not hear their cry. And when they offer burnt offering and an oblation, I will not accept them. But I will consume them by the sword, and by the famine, and by the pestilence. So there's no way that I'm gonna absolve them of this wrath that's coming. So don't even bother praying for them. Their cries, their offerings, I don't care about that. I've determined that I'm gonna bring this destruction upon them, and that's exactly what's gonna happen. Then said I, Lord God, behold, the prophets say unto them, ye shall not see the sword, neither shall ye see famine, but I will give you a short peace in this place. There ain't gonna be no Jacob's trouble. It's June, ain't no microchip. But you had these false prophets that were reassuring the people, saying, oh, no, this famine is gonna pass. Don't listen to what Jeremiah is saying. This isn't, you're gonna be good. The Lord is gonna give us peace. We are his people. We got the temple right here. We're not like the northern kingdom. Then the Lord Yahweh said unto me, the prophets prophesy lies in my name. I have not sent them, or I sent them not, neither have I commanded them, neither spake unto them. They prophesy unto you a false vision and divination. So this dream, this message that the Lord so-called gave them, right? This divining of telling you the future is lies. They're making it up. And they think of naught and the deceit of their heart. So they're conjuring up using slick words to deceive you and to lead you astray. But I didn't send them to say any of that. And guess what? The same thing is happening today. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning the prophets that prophesy in my name, and I sent them not. So they'll say, oh, yeah, how about Shem Yahushai Barakatah? Oh, yeah, in the name of the Lord Yahweh. He's like, I didn't send you. I didn't give you any message. Yet they say, sword and famine shall not be in this land. Meanwhile, the Lord is saying sword and famine is coming. So those prophets that say that, by sword and famine shall those prophets be consumed. So that's how they're going to die. And the people to whom they prophesy shall be cast out in the streets of Jerusalem because of the famine and the sword. So those that take heed to this false prophecy, they're going to be cast out and suffer famine and the sword. The same judgments that they were assured wouldn't happen. And they shall have none to bury them, their wives, nor their sons, nor their daughters, for I will pour their wickedness upon them. So they're going to die and their bodies are going to be left out there, not having anybody to give them the honor of a proper burial because of their wickedness and their stiff-neckedness or their hard-heartedness. Therefore, thou shalt say unto them, let mine eyes run down with tears night and day, and let them not cease. For the virgin daughter of my people is broken with a great breach, with a very grievous blow. Meaning, I'm going to weep for you. I'm going to cry for you continually because there is no cure or solution to this judgment that's coming for you. It's likened unto you being hit with a mortal blow, right? A grievous blow, a deadly wound that is just, you going down. You're going down, baby. Verse 18, if I go forth into the field, then behold the slain with the sword. Because in the siege, right, you would have the army surround the city. So if you try to run out, the troops will catch you there and they will kill you with a sword. And if I enter into the city, but if I look at what's going on within, then behold them that are sick with famine. So famine is within because in a siege, your food and water supply are cut off. So whatever you have within, once it runs out, you got nothing else left. Right? And if you try to flee to the outside, you got the troops waiting for you. Yea, both the prophet and the priest go about into a land that they know not. Okay, which on one end, ultimately, right, they would be carried captive as well, into a foreign land to serve captivity there. But On another sense, when you go into the word go about, it goes into like executing an office, right? As it says, in the land that they know not. And when you read this in the NLT or in another translation, the way they have it is more so like the prophets and priests continue their work, but they don't know what they're doing. That's why they're leading the people astray. Verse 19, hast thou utterly rejected Judah? Hath thy soul loathed Zion? So do you hate us now? Why hast thou smitten us, and there is no healing for us? So not like, why are you bringing judgment, but like, why to the extent where it's like there's literally no healing, there's no wiggle room, there's none of that. We look for peace, and there is no good, and for the time of healing, and behold, trouble. We acknowledge, O Yahweh, our wickedness and the iniquity of our fathers, for we have sinned against thee. So this is the sentiment, right? When they were crying out, this is the sentiment that they were crying out with. But as when Jeremiah came to the Lord with that, he said, no, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it because you're just saying it. If you meant it, you wouldn't even be in this position if you actually meant those words. Okay? When I was telling you that you're doing worse than your forefathers, did you acknowledge it then? No, you said, leave me alone. I want to continue more in my wickedness. And now you acknowledge it because you're starving. Now you acknowledge it because I'm sending armies against you. Do not abhor us for thy name's sake. Do not disgrace the throne of thy glory. Meaning, don't get consumed in your wrath to where we perish, because then it's going to put a stain on your name, right? How can the nation whom the Most High put his name in, how can he just let them perish, right? Was he not able to save them? He touted about delivering them from Egypt and this and that, and now look, the Babylonians were so strong, they took him out, right? Remember, break not thy covenant with us. So Jeremiah is, he's still putting the Lord in that remembrance, but he's doing it from the perspective not of trying to push the righteousness of Israel, but rather to tap into the mercy of the Lord. Verse 22, are there any among the vanities of the Gentiles that can cause rain? And that's referring to their idols, right? Are there any idols amongst the Gentiles that have the power to cause rain? Here he refers to them as vanities, because that's what they are. Or can the heavens give showers? Art not thou he, O Yahweh our God? Therefore we will wait upon thee, for thou hast made all things. So as Jeremiah is saying, these idols, even though Israel was going after them, they can't cause rain, right? They can't make a shower. You're the only one that can do that. So we'll wait upon your mercy, right? Because we understand, that you ultimately, being the former of all things, are in control of it all. And that's the end of Jeremiah, the 14th chapter. Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.